So, my dear children, in the earlier chapters, we discussed several things related to the food preservation. Now, within this chapter, we'll be identifying, like when you take a packeted food item. If you take a packeted food item, my dear children, there are some special things that should be mentioned within the packeted food item. Within the packet itself, these things should be mentioned over there, right? So, our quality standard states that it's important to state these things within a packeted food item. So we'll be investigating what are those items or what are those things that should be printed on a packeted food item, right? So first of all, we'll be investigating by doing this simple experiment, by doing this simple activity given in your, right? Here you can see, by doing this simple activity, we'll be observing first and foremost what are those key points or key things that should be included within a packeted item of food. So let's head on to see what is our activity, right? So in here, we'll be identifying information in a label of food package. In a food package, what are the information which are being included? These things will be identified within this lesson part mainly. So you are given, first of all, you'll be needing few labels of packaged food items. You'll be needing few packaged food items, and especially in here you'll be needing not the food item but the label of it in order to observe those things. Okay, then my dear children, let's see the method. It's really simple. Study well the packets or the cartons of the food items and their labels well, and list the information relevant to ensure their quality. So table is given. You need to identify the packets or the cartons, right? You need to take the packet or the cartons of the food item. Then what do you have to do? You have to study them very well, right? You take the cartoon or the packeted food item, you study them very well, right? Find out what are the things that should be included, what are the things that are included, right? Find out what are the things which are included within that labeled food item, and according to the given table over here, you have to mention these things. Okay, so here it is given packaged food item first, method of preservation, additives, date of manufacture, and the date of expiry. So I'll be using, my dear children, three of these, right? Three of these food packets. I'll be using three of these food packets, right? So here, I'll erase this one so that I could get more space. So I'll be using three of these. Right, let's see. So you can find even more things. By erasing now this part, I can get more space so that I can write down the things very clearly. Okay. So at your home, my dear children, you can find out even more things rather than these three, right? But however, I'll show these three for you guys and I'll mention these three. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down number one, the packaged food item, first packaged food item. Okay, so I'm going to use an ice cream label. Okay, I'm going to use an ice cream label. Right, my dear children, now I have with me here, you can observe, this is an ice cream package. Okay, I just took the top side lid of the ice cream package. Right, here you can observe the flavor. It's called the fruit and nut ice cream, the flavor, right? And here several things are being printed. Right, now let's observe and write down the things which are given in here, right? So first of all, the packaged food item is ice cream. Method of preservation, you know that we need to deep freeze, right? We deep freeze this food item. Then the additives. So my dear children, in here the additives can be observed in this layer. There are several ingredients and additives which have been given here. So I'll mention few of those. So there are there is vanilla flavor. So vanilla, right? Vanilla. Then here sodium is given, sodium carboxymethyl cellulose. Okay, then given natural vanilla extract, artificial vanilla flavor, right? Then brilliant blue, then sugar. So I'll mention few of those, okay, things that you know mainly. So here sugar, relative sugar, then here again given vegetable fat, vegetable fat. So I have mentioned what you do know, okay, and there are other ingredients as well. INS 410, INS 102, then INS 133, INS 412, like that way. There are several things which are added here, but I have mentioned only three, right? These three you would know, you already know about these things, so that's why I have mentioned it, right? You can go through with the, right? You also can take these things and go through with the ingredients. By that way you can find out the additives. Then the next one, my dear children, date of manufacture. Now the date of manufacture of this one here, 24th March 2022. 24th March 2022. So here we go. The date of manufacture, I'll use a different color. I'll use black one. 24th 2022. Then the expiry date is given. Expiry date is given as 24th March 2024. So as you can see here, we can use this thing for about 2 years of time period. 2 years of time period. Right? Then we'll go for the next one. Right? We'll go for the next one. At your home, you also need to follow up with this activity, my dear children. It's really simple. What you have to do is it's really simple. What you have to do, you just find out the things or find out some labels, right? Find out some labels that includes the information regarding to a packaged food item. Okay, that's it. Then you find out the details given over there. So let's see what is the other one. So I'm going to take the second one, my dear children. right? I'm going to take the second one, right? So I have with me right now string hopper, right? This is the flour that we use to make string hoppers, okay? So the flour which used to make string hopper, I have with me a packet of flour, okay? So I'll mention the second one, string hopper flour, right? So here, method of preservation. Here, you know that, my dear children, flour, this is made up with like grains, right? Okay, rice grains. So these rice grains are, like it's been dried up and been powdered into a being powdered into a fine powder. Okay, then after that it's been sealed and packed off. Okay, so we can write it down as drying and packing. Okay, that's the process, drying and packing. So I'll mention as drying, packing. Drying and packing. Then the additives. So let's see what are the ingredients in here. So here, ingredients. So they are mentioning that here the 100% rice grain flour is given. There are no any other additives, right? There are no any additives or any other things. So it's been mentioned within the packet itself. 100% string hopper rice grains, right? There are no any other chemical substances or additives. So in this packet, my dear children, there are no any other additives being added, right? No additives. They are mentioning that there are no any additives. Okay, so I'll mention as no additives. There are no additives in this food package. However, let's see the manufactured date. So manufactured date is given. Yes, over here I can see it. It's 10th October, 4th October 2022. Yes, 4th October 2022 is the manufacturer date. Then the expiry date is given 3rd of October 2023, right? 3rd October 2023. So third October 2023, right? So this is about the string hopper flour, right? So I have used 2 packages right now. Now I'm about to use the third package. Okay, let's see what is the third package then. Right, my dear children, now I have with me a packet of tea leaves. Okay, so let's see the ingredients given in here. So in here, my dear children, let's see. First of all, the package name. So the package name is tea leaves packet. tea leaves packet. The method, like in the previous, it's been dried up and make into a fine powder, right? Drying and packing. Drying and packing. Right, my dear children. Now here also they are not mentioning any special additives, right? Here they are mentioning only about the ingredients, and the main ingredient contained within this tea packet is Ceylon tea. That's it. There are no any other additives. Okay. So most of the times you will be observing additives like, like biscuits, okay, then puddings, then ice creams, and the food items mainly, right? Sausages, those things, in those food items you can observe additives. However, within these things you won't be able to see any special additives, as they are containing, or as these things are going to contain only one type of special ingredient. That's it. Okay. So here also there is no special additive, right, in this tea packet. So I'll mention it as a blank. Then the date of manufacture. Date of manufacture is given 5th. Okay, I'll use the black color pen. Manufacture date is given, my dear children, 5th May 2022, and the expiry date is given May 4th, 2023. Right. 4th May 2023. Yes. Okay. So these are the details of several packeted food items which I have found. Okay. So I have used 3 of these things, 3 of food items, right, that we consume in our day-to-day life. And 2 of those things did not consume, or did not had any, right, did not have any, like special additives. The tea packet and the string hopper flour, it doesn't contain, those 2 did not contain any special additives. However, that ice cream thing, or the ice cream, it contained several additives, but I haven't mentioned all of those things. I have mentioned 3 of the additives, main additives, which are being added to the ice cream. Okay. Right. Then, however, my dear children, for each and every packet, there was a expiry date and there was a manufacture date. Okay. Right then. So I'm going to keep this thing away now, and let's observe what are the other things, right, contained within this part. Okay. Okay, my dear children. Now, so in each and every food package, you can observe mainly the date of manufacture, the date of expiry, and the additives. That additive things are contained within the ingredients column, my dear children, right? So like that you can observe several details. Okay, so let's head on to see what are the other contents given in the lesson. So my dear children, it's important to follow up with this method. Okay, you have to follow the activity which is given here. Try to get some more food packages and identify each of these things. Write down and tabulate those things like I did. Okay, so here I have mentioned 3. At your home, you find out even more things and tabulate. Okay, right then. So let's head on to see what are the other contents. So we have identified several things related to the packeted food item. Okay, so there are several information that should be mentioned within the packeted food item. So as I wrote in the earlier table, my dear children, the dates like the manufacturer date, okay, expiry date are very important. Okay, so compare the information you collected with the following. Some important information given on the label of a packaged food item are as follows. So, in a packed food item, there are several information that should be important, right? These information are very sensitive. Definitely, these information should be included in each and every packaged food item. It's because, my dear children, right? If you take a packaged food item, within a packaged food item, food is being preserved. Preserved food are, right? Preserved food are, they are having some kind of a different structure rather than the normal ones. So therefore, the consumer should have the right in order to identify whether the food item is favorable for the person or not. The consumer has that right. Okay? Consumer has that authority to investigate, like, what kind of food am I eating? What are the things which are being mentioned here? What is the time period which I can consume this food item? How much is the mass or the volume of this food item? So in each and every packaged food item, those sensitive information should be there. By that way, the consumer should get a good knowledge about, or the sound knowledge about, the food item that he is going to consume. Right? There can be sometimes, my dear children, like this. Now, if you take a certain food item, there can be certain types of additives. Those additives are going to be going to cause allergic reactions for certain for certain people. So, my dear children, if there is a allergy reaction like that way, then there would be a trouble for the consumer. There are some, like there are people, especially, right? There are some people who are showing some allergic reaction to peanuts. So, if a person is going to consume a peanut or some nuts added, ice cream, then, my dear children, the person may get ill. So, by looking at the cover or by looking at the label, okay, the person should have an ability to identify whether that ice cream contains peanut or not. So, that's why the ingredients column is there to support the people, to support the consumer about or to give an idea about the things which he is going to consume with the consumption of that food item. So that's just a simple case. Like that way, there are several other cases and there are several other information, special information that we need to think about. So we'll be identifying what are those special, right, key and more sensitive information. So here you are given the date of manufacture and the date of expiry. Date of manufacture and the date of expiry. So as you are going to consume preserved food, this preserved food should have a certain time limit. Within this time limit, the food item should be consumed. Otherwise, there would be trouble. Within this given time period, the person should have an ability to consume. Okay? Otherwise, you know that what will happen? Their color may change, appearance may change, the chemical structure would change. Okay? I told you that if you take a certain food item, even though those are being preserved, there is a certain time limit. I mean, like if you take a food item, it's not going to last forever, even though it is being preserved. So there is a certain time limit. Within this time limit, the consumer should have to consume it. Otherwise, he won't be able to consume it because it's going to be spoiled. So the manufacturer date and the expiry date is very important factors. so that the consumer can check and get an idea about the time period which he can consume the food item. Okay. Then the next one given, the net weight or the total weight. So like I said, total weight or the net weight is also important. Let's see that, let's imagine that there are 5 people at a certain house. One person can consume like 200 grams of a certain substance. Okay. So without going for 4 of those packets, if there are 4 people, without going for 4 of those packets, he can just go for 1 kilogram of one, right? He can go for 1 kilogram of a packet. So in order to identify 1 kilogram of a packet, there should be a mass. The mass should be printed like 1 kilogram. So by that way, he can go for 1 kilogram packet straight away. Rather than taking 4, it's easy to take 1 home, right? So like that way, if the mass is printed there within the food item, it's going to be quite easy for the consumer to select the correct product, right? Then the next one, the standard. Standard means the quality. So you know that there are several products with several institutions and from several countries. But however, right? However, consumer has the right to choose the best product and a quality product out of the materials or out of the products. Okay, out of the materials or out of the companies, right? Out of the certain companies, consumer has the right to choose the most accurate and the most quality product. So in this case, my dear children, the standard is going to be a pretty much important factor. Standard in the sense in here is that the international standard or the SLS. SLS means Sri Lanka Standard Institution. That's the institution that's going to govern the quality products in Sri Lanka. If the SLS logo is there, then there is a, right? Then we believe that this food item or the packeted food item or whatever the item is in a good standard. It's a good quality product. So like that way, there are several standards. In Sri Lanka, it's SLS, and in worldwide, there is another one called ISO. So like that way, these standards are pretty much important factors in order to select quality products out of the various products in the market. Then the next one, my dear children, producer, institution, the country of origin should be there. So like I said in the earlier case, there are several institutions in several countries which are going to produce several or different kinds of products. So within these products, it's important to select the best and the good item or the good food item. So in order to do that, the relevant institution should be printed on the material. Okay. And the country should be printed on the material institution with the country of origin. So by that way, the consumer would have the idea, he will definitely have the idea to select the correct or the most accurate one. Okay. Then the next one, environment friendliness, consumer friendliness of the packet or the wrapper. So each and every packeted food item, it contains a wrap. A polythene wrap, a cardboard wrap, or any kind, right? Most of the times, different symbols are being added to this wrapper. These symbols indicate, right, whether the wrapper is recyclable or not. There are some certain wrappers which are recyclable. So if these things are recyclable, then those things can be once again being used. Not in the same way, but however in a different way. So therefore, my dear children, if the wrapper is environment friendly, right, then those symbols are being printed on the wrapper itself, right? So those things should also be mentioned, or those things also should be mentioned, right? Definitely those things should be mentioned, because this recycling process is pretty much important in order to survive in our biosphere. I mean, like, it avoids the environmental pollution mainly. Okay, and even if you take the environmental pollution, not even the environment pollution, but also if you take the wrap or the wrapper, that wrapper sometimes is going to harm the consumer as well. So we have to mention, or the company should have to mention, whether the wrapper is environment friendly or user friendly. Okay, both the things should be indicated within the wrap, right? Especially these things are being applied for the polythene and plastic packets. Okay, polythene or plastic packets, right? So these are the key things that we need to identify in a packeted food item. Especially we need to identify about the expiry date, manufacture date, ingredients. Those things are pretty much important. So before you are going to buy a certain packeted food item, make sure to look at least the net weight, ingredients, the expiry date. Okay, make sure to check these things right then. So the first and foremost thing is given here, the manufacture and the date of expiry. So like I said, my dear children, here it is given, food can be packed only for a limited time period. So I told you that food can be packed only for a limited time period. If that time period is going to pass by, then there is a risk in change in their physical and also the chemical nature. So food can be packed for a limited time period of time, protecting their nutritional quality. As time elapses, physical and chemical changes may take place in the food. Moreover, food may get spoiled due to microbial activity. So when you are opening and closing these things, different microorganisms would come. You know that environment contains, our atmosphere contains different kinds of microorganisms. So upon opening and closing, these microorganisms definitely would come and contact with each other, right? Each other means in the sense here with the food item. So upon that, my dear children, there is a higher risk. Even though these things are being preserved, there is a higher risk of spoilage. So however, even the food is being preserved, we won't be able to consume that thing for a longer time period. Longer time period means we can't use those things for lifetime. So there is a certain time period. So expiry date and the manufacture date should be there in order to get some idea about that time period, that validity time period of the food item. Okay, so consumer has that right to identify the validity time period of the food item. By that way, he has an ability, right? By that way, he will get an idea in which time period should the consumer have to use this thing. Okay, so expiry date and manufacture date is a very good information. It's an important information that should be printed on a label of a packeted food item. Right. Then the next one given, total weight or the net weight. The consumer should be aware of the amount of substance in the package. The consumer, right? The consumer or the customer who is going to buy the packeted food item, he should know about the item, and also he should know about the mass or the volume or the substance, the amount of substance which he is going to buy in the packet, right? So he has the right to he has the right to know about the amount of substance which he is going to buy. Okay, so in the next one, the next main important factor is the net weight or the total weight or the volume of the substance. Okay, as the consumer has the right to know about these things, right? These things should be definitely be printed on a packeted food item. Then the next one given, the standard. If the food item is prepared according to the standards prescribed by the Sri Lanka Standard Institute, the cover of the package should have the SLS logo along with the relevant numbers. So like I said, my dear children, Sri Lanka Standard Institution, SLS, that is the special organization in Sri Lanka that governs or that regulates the companies, especially food companies, right? So these food companies should follow the prescribed things or the prescribed doses given out by the SLS, right? When they are making food items, they have to follow, they have to add the same amount of additives or any other things to the food items prescribed by the SLS. So if the companies in Sri Lanka, they follow out those standards, then we say that, or then the Sri Lankan Standard Institution is going to give the SLS logo for that company. It means that the particular company is having a good quality, and it is following the prescribed volume or prescribed concentration of additives and any other substances, and Sri Lanka Standard Institution governs that, or it gives a a certification that this food item is safe and healthy to be consumed. Okay, so if the SLS sign is not there, then my dear children, we can't guarantee with the condition of the food item. I mean, like, we don't know whether it is safe to use or not. Okay, so consumer has the right to know whether the food item has a good quality or not. Okay, then if the food item is prepared according to the international standards, the package should have the ISO logo along with the relevant numbers. Sometimes, my dear children, right, sometimes these food items are being exported to different countries. So in that case, right, the international standard logo should be there. So that is mentioned as the ISO logo. So if the ISO logo is there, not in Sri Lanka, but also in every country, this food item is identified as a good quality food item. Okay, right. So here you can observe that SLS sign and the ISO sign. So food items with the standard certification are considered to be in high quality. We already know that if these things are in good quality, that means they should have SLS or ISO sign, right? So this is that ISO sign. Here the relevant number can be observed. So within this label you can observe ISO 9001. So this is the SLS sign. This is for the Sri Lankan thing. So the number can be identified here, 894. So SLS sign, it is for the companies in Sri Lanka, and the ISO sign for the worldwide companies. Okay, multinational companies. So these standards are pretty much important to identify the things. Okay, right. So you are given with an assignment. There are instances where food is adulterated by adding various substances for the purpose of making profit. Be cautious about such instances. Make a list of food items which are adulterated. In example you mentioned, state the substance added to the food. Now, sometimes when you take food items, my dear children, in order to, give out a good appearance, sometimes to increase the lifetime, sometimes to, to cheat actually, right? People are tending to add several substances and alter the natural condition, alter the natural like the appearance of food items. So these additives, these special additives, those things are even harmful to us. Okay, sometimes they are harmful to us even, right? For an example, my dear children, so like in the recent years, several, turmeric powder, bunches of turmeric powder were found out by the government, right? Then government officers, they have found out from the stores, different kinds of stores around the country. So in these, they have added flour. Okay, they have added flour. Specialty here is that this flour is being colored with a white color pigment. Not a white color pigment, a yellow color pigment. Okay, flour is, it's been colored with the yellow color pigment and been added to the turmeric powder. So by that way, they have increased the net weight. Okay, by that way, they have increased the net weight. So to increase the appearance, to enhance the appearance and the color of the food items, sometimes some people, right, they add several different kinds of substances into food items, especially for these kinds of spices. So I'm going to mention such 2 or 3 examples. Okay, so if you take turmeric powder, most of the times for turmeric powder, right, flour is getting added, wheat flour, right? Sometimes wheat flour is added by adding a certain pigment, a yellow color pigment. Sometimes they are being added normally with the turmeric powder and mixed very well. We can't find out. We can't find whether the flour is added or not. Okay. When you take milk, fresh milk, my dear children, sometimes some milk farmers, okay, these milk farmers, they add water more than the prescribed amount in order to increase the volume and get more profit. Okay. Especially this thing is being done for the fresh milk. Okay. So for when you are buying fresh milk, okay, if you are going to buy fresh milk from a certain person, make sure whether those things have a good quality or not. Sometimes they add more water for the milk. So the nutritional value of the milk is getting reduced at that time. Because most of the ones or more volume that you consume is not milk actually, it's water. Okay. Then if you take, spices like, spices like chili powder. In chili powder also, my dear children, some, some people, they add, wheat flour. Okay, they add wheat flour. By adding a certain pigment, they are making it into a red color powder, right? Then that red color wheat flour powder is being added to the spices, okay, especially for the chili powder. So by that way also, they are going to increase the weight and they are going to distribute these things here and there within the country. So these are several instances where we can observe the addition of these other substances, other useless substances in order to obtain more profit, right? However, these things are not legal, right? So you have the right to complain these things about for the consumer department. Then by that way, my dear children, you have the full authority to hand over these frauds to, right, to the relevant authorities. So to enhance the appearance, to increase the mass of the substance, there are several people who are going to add different kinds of other substances to the food items. Okay, so we'll write down those three instances. Okay, I'm going to write down three instances. Okay, I will write down 3 instances. You find out even more. You can even get more details by asking from your adults about the things or the substances that they add. Most of the times these guys add. Okay, then by that way you can find out even more details. But however, I'll mention 3 of these instances where different other kinds of substances are being added to the food item to enhance the mass, weight, volume, or else any other factors, right? So number 1, adding more water to fresh cow milk to increase volume. Number 2, adding wheat flour to increase the mass, adding wheat flour to increase the mass of turmeric powder. Then number 3, adding red colored flour to chili powder. To increase mass. Okay, so these are several instances where, like different additives or different other substances which are being added to the food items in order to increase the, especially here those guys are increasing the mass or the volume in order to get more profit. So adding more water to fresh cow milk to increase volume. Then adding wheat flour to increase the mass of turmeric powder. Then third one, adding red colored flour to chili powder to increase the mass. Right, so these are the instances. Once again, adding more water to fresh cow milk to increase volume, adding wheat flour to increase the mass of turmeric powder, adding red color flour to chili powder to increase mass. Okay, mainly they are increasing mass or the volume. right, in order to gain more profit, my dear children. Okay, right. So these are the instances like fraud vendors, okay, who are going to add different kinds of other substances to gain more profit. Right, then we'll see what are the other things contained in the lesson. Right, my dear children, so we have identified what are the special cases in some fraud vendors. They do to increase the mass or the volume of certain substances. Okay, in that cases, you have the full right. Okay, you have the full right to apprehend those guys to the relevant authorities. Now let's see what are the other contents that should be there in a information of a labeled food item. Then here the next one is given the details of the manufacturer. Information about the manufacturer or the country that produces the food item is important for taking legal action in case of unexpected results are caused due to consumption of food. So, if there is an allergy case, if there is a certain complication, then my dear children, we have to go in front of the law. Law is our only savior in that kind of a situation. So in order to do that thing, in order to do that kind of thing, we have to know about the manufacturer. Who is the one which prepared this food item? What is their address? What is their country of origin? Where it is being located? Like that way, like if you are going to apply a certain law, if you're going to sue them, for simple, let's see like that. So in that case, you should have to know to which person you are going against with, to which kind of a person you are going against with. So the details of the manufacturer, like the address, then the country and the street. If there is a mobile phone number, those mobile phone numbers or phone numbers, then those things should be there, right? Those things should be there. Most of the times for mobile numbers are not given, but however, definitely the address and the country of origin and the institution is going to be definitely there within the packet itself. Definitely those things will be printed, right? The address and the country of origin. It's because that if there is a legal action against the particular company, you can apply, or you can like legal actions can be taken according to that address of the institution. So if there is a complication of because having that kind of food, okay, after consuming the food item, if you are having a certain complication, then definitely you can go in front of the law by taking that certain packeted food. Okay, right. So these are the special things contained within a label of a food item, a packeted food item, my dear children. Right. So finally, we are discussing about the environment friendliness of the wrapper and also the package. Not only with the environment friendliness, but it should also be user friendly. So let's see what are the things given here. Since some food types contain flavors, colorings and preservatives, with time they may react with packing and form substances injurious to health. These wrappings are harmful for personal health as well as the environment. Therefore, when buying packaged food item, it is very important to pay attention not only to the quality of food but also to all information given in their labels. So, like I said, my dear children, when time is going to pass by, these food items are going to change the chemical and physical nature. In that case, there are some certain instances, or there is some kind of a probability that the food item is going to react with the preservatives or else with the other wrappings and other kinds of things contained within the packeted food item. So if a person is going to consume that kind of a food item, then there is a higher probability that the person is going to poison or having a situation of food poisoning. Okay, or or sometimes some allergic reactions. So it's very important to know about the wrapper, whether it is environment friendly or user friendly, right? So this wrapping thing is also very important. Sometimes there are different symbols which been printed on the wrapper. So it is showing that the wrapper is environment friendly and it can be recycled or whatever. So the condition of the wrapper is also important factor that should be, right, printed, or that should be labeled within the certain packeted food item. Right then. Next one, even proper packaging is essential to minimize the wastage of food during transport. Some of its advantages are, now when you take the wrapper, not only that case, right, not only the environment friendliness, but also packing, a good packaging is also providing us an extra bit of advantages upon the transportation, right, and upon the like distribution processes. You know that the food item is going to travel here and there, right? Food item is going to travel here and there. Packaged food item is also going to travel here and there from the like from machines or from the from the company to the supermarket, then to our houses. Sometimes from the factory, like from factories to normal local markets, from local markets to rural area, rural retail shops, then from retail shops to the our houses. So there is a there is a path, right, distribution path. So during this distribution, it's important to keep the wrapper or the container in a good, sound, protected way. Okay, the cover should be protective for the food which is inside. So having a good and a quality wrapper also advantages to us. What are the extra advantages given out by those things mentioned in here? Let's see. Prevention of entry of microorganisms and macroorganisms. Yes. It prevents the entry of microorganisms and as well as the entry of macroorganisms. Right? Macroorganisms like housefly, ants, weevils. So if those kind of organisms are going to enter to the food item, definitely the food item is going to accelerate the spoilage process. So the proper packaging is going to protect the food item from those microorganisms and from macroorganisms as well. Next one. Protection of food from external factors such as air, water, in here bracket moisture is given, light and heat. So not only with the microorganisms or any other organisms, but also with the external factors like air, light, water, right? From those factors also, these packaged food items are being saved. If you take a savory item like peanuts, bite packets, in these cases, my dear children, it's very important to keep these items, these packaged items, away from moisture. Otherwise, their texture is getting changed and as well as the taste. Okay? Texture and as well as the taste is also getting changed. A terrible taste would come. Right? So, therefore, we won't be able to consume it. So it's very much important pretty much important to have a good, well-wrapped case for these food items, especially for the savory items and peanuts. Okay, if they come in contact with moisture, then we can't consume it. And even for the milk packets also the same thing, right? Next one. Maintenance of quality and quantity of food. So it maintains the good quality and the good quantity, the preserved quantity, right? The prescribed quantity is being saved and the quality of the food also being saved. Next one, facilitation of transport and the storage. So I have mentioned that thing. It facilitates the transport and the storage process, right? Without without damaging the food item inside. The wrapper, if there is a good wrapper, if there is a proper wrapper, then my dear children, the food item is going to be saved even though even within the transportation period. Okay, right there. So here it is given, only prescribed varieties of plastics can be used to pack food. They are known as super grade plastics, right? Super grade plastics. So here now these are the symbols, my dear children. I think you have already seen these kind of symbols within the food items, packages of food items. So these indicates that the wrapper is recyclable. So only special kinds of plastic and polythene items are being used to packet food item, right? So the symbols given in the packaging which are suitable for food are given here. Recycled plastic should never be used as food wrappers. Recycled plastic should never be used. Even though it is being recycled, even though it can be recycled, but however, we can't use recycled ones. The wrapper can be recycled, but however, recycled plastic wrappers should not be used to wrap food. Okay? Plastic used to pack other materials should not be used to pack food. Now the next one is the plastic which are used to pack other kinds of materials. Not food, but other materials like furniture, then electronic items. Okay, so if there are those kinds of items, then my dear children, for those kinds of items also we use plastic wrappers. No, so those plastic wrappers should never be used in wrapping food items. That's a convention. Okay, oily or basic food types should not be packed in non-prescribed plastic containers. So oily or basic food types, acidic, basic, both can be taken, right? So oily food, base food, acids food, these might react with the, okay, these might react with the packeted food items. Okay, not the food items, but actually with the wrapper. So they have a potential in reacting with the wrapper. So these plastic items should never be used to wrap these items. What items? Oily, basic or acidic foods. Then strongly heated food is not suitable for packaging. For packaging, strongly heated food items should never be used. Upon heating, my dear children, plastic materials is going to produce more toxic substances like cancer-causative agents. So now remember, in your home also, if you are using plastic items, make sure that you add only cold substances, not hot substances. If you are going to add hot substances, my dear children, there is a potential risk in developing cancer-causative agents within those cups, within especially plastic cups. Okay, to hold normal to hold normal substances, those which are not in a extreme temperature, right, we can use plastic, it's not a problem. But however, if the substance is having a greater temperature, then in that case, my dear children, we have to be cautious. We should not add, okay, we should not add these things to plastic containers. Remember that thing, because most of the times when plastic is going to be heated for a certain temperature, right, to a certain high temperature, some kinds of cancer causative agents might going to be developed within the container. Okay, so that's why we need to avoid adding strongly heated substances for the wrappers of plastic. Okay, right. So during food preservation, my dear children, it is given the point, during food preservation, very often synthetic flavors and colorings are added, and food is subjected to a complex mode of processing. Hence, it is very important to get used to consume natural food. So, like I said in the earlier case, it's important to use natural food. Why is that? Because, my dear children, upon using preserved food, we are going to, right, we are going to, addict for the food items. We are going to addict for the food items. We are going to addict for the different kinds of a taste, but not for the natural taste, but for the artificial flavors. So that thing is actually not good for our health, right? So my dear children, it's really important to minimize the consumption of these preserved food. Okay, definitely we have to minimize the consumption of preserved food. It's not good actually, right? I mean, like, it's okay to consume if you are using it like for about once or twice a week. However, if you are using these things more often, then it is not going to be healthy, right? Using natural food is the best and foremost option. However, my dear children, there is a certain kind of a situation that with the cities, with the urbanization and with the globalization process, because of the life which is getting complicated, it's very difficult to find out those natural things. And it's also very difficult to process these natural things with the less time that we have. However, right, try to minimize the consumption of preserved food, as it's going to destroy your natural taste buds. Okay, right then. So these are the contents, these are the main key points, these are the theoretical parts related to the food preservation lesson, my dear children. Right, so let's head on to observe the summary. Food spoilage is mainly caused by the growth and the action of microorganisms on food. We already know that, right? Mainly, the growth of microorganism is the main reaction. That's the main reaction, or that's the main reason for the spoilage of food. Food is getting spoiled because of the action of microorganisms, right? Food preservation is keeping food for a longer period of time by artificially controlling the factors affecting the food spoilage. Now, food preservation means here we are preserving or saving, or we are going to lay it down. Okay, we are going to lay it, right? What we are going to do is mainly here, we are changing the nature of the food item. Actually, not changing the nature. Here we are going to delay the process of food spoilage. Delay is the proper word. We are going to delay the process, we are going to delay this spoilage of food by adding different artificial and sometimes natural things into the food. Okay. Minimizing food spoilage utilization of surplus food, ability to consume some food types in off-season, and prevention of food poisoning are the advantages of food preservation. So already we discussed these things. Those are the advantages, main advantages of food preservation. By preserving food, we can effectively use the surplus. We can consume these things in off-season. We can avoid the food poisoning process. We can use this food item for a longer time period. And my dear children, finally, you know that by minimizing or by preservation, we can minimize the food spoilage. Food preservation descends from the past. At present, food is preserved by modern technological methods. So even in the ancient time period, right, our natives used different types of methods to preserve food. Nowadays, those things were modified and modern technological methods have been improved in order to preserve food, like spray drying, right, and drying under the solar heat. Like that way, there are several things. Okay, like that, there are increasing the concentration, adding additives and chemicals. So like that way, there are several things. Right, we discuss all of those things. The modern technology, with the development of the modern technology, what are the modern trends used by the people to preserve food? Okay. However, my dear children, here we are mainly minimizing the action of microorganisms and the growth of microorganisms. Next one. When buying packaged food item, it is very important that the quality of food as well as the information given in the label, so these are taken into consideration. So when you are taking a food item, a packaged food item, you know that the packaged food items are already being preserved. So packaged food item should contain special information like the manufacturer date, then the expiry date, net weight, standard, then the what the ingredients. Like that way, there are certain things that should be printed within the label. So these things would give a good idea, a sound idea to the consumer who is going to use that product. So consumer has the right to know each and every detail which are related to the product. Okay. Then finally, it is always favorable to consume natural food whenever possible in order to maintain good health. So like I said, finally, my dear children, it's very important to use natural food as much as possible in order to avoid complications related to food. Okay, natural food is always better rather than the preserved food. Natural food is better, always better rather than the preserved food. Right. So these are the contents that we identified within the lesson food preservation. So I hope that you got a good knowledge about the food preservation process, my dear children. So it's now time to wind up our theoretical parts. So within our next chapter, we'll be discussing several questions related to our lesson.